the meteor storm, the approaching, apparently, meteor storm. Can we talk about that tonight some?
Sure, because I guess we've been blessed for so long not to have things on fire from meteors, right?
Right.
Most of the inbound meteors, although they are increasing in number, are largely, passive. Nobody really thinks about that, but those days are ending. The skies will become quite unpredictable by way of what reaches the atmosphere, because we're entering into a very new part of space, period. Some places are dense, some places are just overtaken by road rocks and everything else is out there. Well, of course, as we continue to travel, and we're traveling pretty fast, this entire solar system is, we're coming into a place where there's no way we're going to dodge a lot of inbound meteors. And once we get into this dense part of existence, it's going to take many, many years before we exit. Now, what this will likely do, Pastor Paul, is we're going to start to see a buildup of perturbers, both perturbers and intruders that hit the ground. Not so much aerial explosions. To most of the rocks that explode in the atmosphere, they have a very predictable composition. But we're talking about not a bunch of rocks that clump together, but more like something that broke apart, right? We're not talking about something that coalesced.
Okay.
Space and is full of gases and things like that. No. We're talking about rocks from something that absolutely blew up.
Okay.
Some remnants of something that was quite large. And as we go into it, we're going to have more atmospheric breaches. That means first they'll start by small pebble type objects smacking into the ground, setting things on fire. Right? That will eventually increase as we get to the dense part of this phenomenon. In which case, we're gonna have a lot of places that are burning. We're gonna have fire problems.
What is this?
I think that's something people should get ready for.
Well, what is the composition of this? Because if it's not going to blow up in the air like most,
lots of iron.
Iron. So it's going to come all the way to
That's a star killer.
So it's going to come all the way to the Earth's surface. I mean, because it won't just blow up. And that's going to create the fires on Earth and going to create the impacts.
Lots of it. Well, that molten iron hitting the Earth with some other exotic metals, right? You have that, and it's wrapped around with arsenic, right? So here's what happens. If you have too many of these things that come into the atmosphere, our atmosphere is going to be laden with arsenic.
Are you serious?
Right? Naturally, that comes in with almost every single object that explodes or breaches the atmosphere and glows brilliantly. It goes that way because of its composition. In this case, it's going to be a lot of arsenic. Now, one of my biggest issues, and the reason why I'm watching, in truth, if it were just a big ball of iron that would come in and hit the ocean, I'd be fine with that. I'm okay with that because we've had those before. In time, people will survive. We'll have some adjustments. But imagine something that is iron-based, encapsulated with lots of arsenic wrapped around it, right? If it hits the ocean with that type of arsenic wrapped around, we're in trouble. We're in trouble, right?
Yeah.
But where's all this stuff coming from? There's a set of charts coming out that some of the people out there on the internet are they're going to love this because they're going to release some of the data, actual data, of the arcing effect that's been taking place from some other system we're getting close to, right? I'm going to say the way they're going to give it to everybody. Some other system we're getting close to,
right,
also has 3 asteroid belts, right?
3.
And lots of debris in orbit around its star. Those objects contain tons of arsenic, tons of iron, lots of arsenic.
Mike, now you're talking wormwood. I mean, when the Bible talks about we got these 2 what look like burning mountains and whatever, and it crashes into the sea and into the earth, and then all the water turns bitter, poisonous. I mean, is it arsenic?
Arsenic would do it. It would do it. If we had a large aerial burst somewhere in the Pacific, likely the Atlantic, and it was, that was of a good size, right? We'd be in trouble. And here's that part. Here's what a lot of people maybe they didn't think about this, but imagine an object that's really big. Say it does not hit Earth, but the tail goes right through us, right?
Okay.
And the tail is just, gas is coming off of it. Suppose we go through that tail, but the tail is arsenic. Do you know what would happen to the oceans? It would poison the oceans.
Poison.
It would absolutely poison the oceans. And so this effect, this unavoidable effect is going to take place.
Yeah.
We will entertain the tail of a very big object. And we'll likely go right through that tail. The way its arc is aligned, we're going to go right through that tail.
And that's and that's your Revelation chapter 8. That's literally explains what you're saying is we now can see the tail of a big object that we're not going to get hit by this object, but we're going to go through its tail, and when we do, we're going to get pelted with iron, rocks, brimstone, and arsenic.
No, arsenic is going to be the worst.
Yeah, and it's going to happen. This
escape that.
Well, this identification, what you're saying is, they can see this, right, Mike? I mean, they can see it. This is wormwood. This is the Revelation chapter 8 event. It's coming. How far is it away?
Poison.
How far are we?
Waters.
How far are we away from that? Do we know?
We're not that far. We're not that far. We're not that far at all. But before that, Pastor Paul, we're going to have some encounters with a lot of objects that will cause fires.
Okay.
Right? Now, the great concern is this. When we get into this time, into the density of this time, all those satellites around the planet, we're gonna really have to deal with that because we've not dealt with that. It seems like every 2 weeks something is piercing the ISS. There are already estimates coming out that the ISS, International Space Station, is not going to be there too long. It will eventually deorbit. That's going to cause some issues because of what's on board. There's satellites in space. They have canisters the size of an ammo can, the standard ammo can. But inside that canister are materials that if they hit the atmosphere, they could destroy 1/4 of the Earth. They could poison people.
Whoa.
There are dangerous things in there. So these are dangerous that, Air Force Command, Space Command are charged and tasked to really watch everything that comes in proximity to these things because some of these satellites are deadly, but we need them up there. That's their, the fuel they work by. That's something people don't think about. These are threats, man-made threats, that if a disturbance hits in the outer atmosphere, we're going to have to deal with those threats. And so what I'm saying is this. We do not need anything to penetrate the atmosphere. All we need to cause absolute destruction on the surface of the Earth is a small disturbance in the orbit of a few satellites that will cause a chain reaction, just like a pool table. And all of a sudden, we're going to have poison air here on the planet, right? Space Command has to shoot everything down that contains some of these fuel centers before they even, come in. That's their job. Air Force Command, that's their job. NASA, that's their job. JPL Propulsion, European Space Station. They have to be on top of this. That's where a lot of the allotted money for the black budget has now been shifted. Because they're working overtime on this. Right? They're working. Elon, he knows all about it.
Yep.
Because he has a lot of defense contracts, and he has been in the know about these subjects.
Yes.
But we're getting into that time is what I'm saying, because we're going to have meteor storms, Pascal, but what's going to happen to some of those satellites up there? Right? We have micrometeorites that are now penetrating the ISS. They're damaging satellites. They're coming very low in the atmosphere. They're skipping all over the planets. And this is every single night. And so we're really, that density, the frequency at which these things are hitting is getting quite high. It used to be, we were in a clean part of space at one point. We're not in a clean part of space right now. So things are changing, whether anybody, knows that or not. And as I said before, no one need be convinced of these things. We're going to have to live through it because we're already in the time where it's happening, and it will escalate. It will escalate.
Wow.
By the time some of the bigger events come around, it's going to be a lot of people fatigued, wore out, just simply, out of steam concerning some of the bigger events. And these are small events that will cause many devastations on the earth. Look at the rain in California, right?
Yeah.
We have these, you have the storm patterns that kept coming in, but these storms have really degraded, or let's say they have depressed a lot of people out there. They've been worn out by the rain, right? And this will be followed up by a dryness they have never experienced before. Remember when I said it's a shame they couldn't capture all the water that's been.
Yeah, because you know it's going to run off. It's too much too fast, so it's going to run off.
Yeah, and the temperatures that we're about to face, guys, well, we're going to break we're going to smash all records this year coming up concerning. I don't like heat, but it's coming anyway. We're going to get very hot, very dry, but there's still going to be flooding in a lot of places where there shouldn't be flooding.
Yeah, I mean, that's crazy. That's crazy. But you were right. You told us that. And the Bible, folks, also tells you that. In the book of Hosea, it talks about it will rain on one city and not two other cities. And the people in these two cities will have to travel over to the one city, and there still won't be enough water. Now, this was prophesied. This is what will happen in the last days. Now, Mike, you're also talking about, folks, and you really should read Revelation chapter 8. Read about these two major events that brings this wormwood effect, that brings this arsenic that poisons the water and makes it bitter. Okay, that's what it says. It's wormwood. It makes it poisonous, makes it bitter. So, Mike, you're saying now, and these little pebbles are piercing through the International Space Station. They're going to end up having to take that thing down. Our satellites are going to be threatened. What you're sharing with us tonight is we can see it coming now. We have the technology and the space probes and the big telescopes and what have you. We can see what's coming. The wormwood effect. We can now see it coming, and I take it's coming along with this binary system. Is it part of the system that's coming?
It's coming with it.
It's coming with it. Okay.
And that binary, it's going to take a lot of people they'll see things in the skies they've never seen before. We're going to see color changes in the sky. We could entertain a day where everything is orange color.
Wow.
We're going to see a redirection of the photons the sun puts out right now. It's going to be redirected to the, it could happen to more than one source. So we'll just find that out. But we're going to see Jupiter change, Saturn change. We're going to see Mars change. The Earth, I know that the Earth is not going to keep its orbital position. It's not going to happen this time. We have been so blessed for so many passages. I do not believe the Earth is going to keep its orbit this time, which means we're going to have a change in constellations. Amateur astronomers are going to see this. They'll likely be, blown away, worried by these things, but just get prepared to see many different things in the skies that just shouldn't be. We're going to see exactly what happens when some of the stability of the heavens is lost.
Yeah. Well, Jesus said the heavens will be shaken. There'll be signs in the sun, the moon, the stars. In other words, we're going to see things we didn't see before because apparently the earth gets repositioned in its orbital path. That changes the perception or your perspective of the stars. You start seeing weather and everything, right? And what's going to knock everything off its course is this binary system coming by. That's coming by too close, bringing a bunch of moons with it, bringing a big comet-like tail. Even, matter of fact, in the book, Immanuel Velikovsky, who wrote the book, folks, called Worlds in Collision, talks about this tail, this, nemesis, or, whatever you want to call this, Planet X. But he always talked about the fact that it wasn't that would hit us, but it would be the debris that comes with it. And we wind up going through that. And that's probably what you're saying, Mike. That's what's going to knock us off our orbit. It's going to knock us off our trajectory and our orbit around the sun. which is going to change everything. Temperatures, tides, rain, droughts, fire. I mean, really, it's going to change everything.
I'm going to give you another scenario too, Pastor Paul, because a lot of people think that maybe some secondary system has to be in close proximity, but imagine this one. Imagine something starts to affect Jupiter.
Yeah.
Just Jupiter.
Just Jupiter.
Say Jupiter moves 2, 3, 4,000 miles outside of its orbit. Do you not know that will throw the inner planets in chaos? We are just as the moon, right, has a tidal lock with us, right? And it's in geosync orbit, so to speak, with us. Perfect, it just goes around perfectly to sustain life on the Earth. So if that were disrupted, the tides would just go inland so far, it'd be just crazy, right?
Yeah.
So imagine something disturbing Jupiter. If something had enough of a pull, of a force to affect Jupiter's orbit, then all the inner planets would follow suit, because Jupiter keeps our balance. It keeps us in the orbit we're in. And I hate to tell everybody, but we're in this perfect, there's no way things just fell into position. These planets have a perfect orbit. I mean, a perfect orbit. And the more you measure, the more you find out that that's something that it just does not happen naturally in nature this way. So we're in this perfect orbit with a perfect balancing ball called the moon. But if Jupiter is disturbed, everything is going out of whack. Everything will go out of whack. You're talking about we could sit sideways for a few hours and then go back, start going backwards. The Earth, Jupiter will be disturbed. There's no way Jupiter is going to survive being in close proximity to something that has a certain level of mass. It's just not going to sustain its present orbit that way. And when that changes, and by the way, I know everybody thinks Jupiter is a gas giant. I can't even discuss that one, but anyway.
Whoa. It's not a gas giant? Then what is it?
I'll just say I don't believe it's a gas giant. I do not believe Jupiter is a gas giant. I just don't believe that.
Because you believe...
A few of the pros believe it either.
Let me. Is it because it has to be the counterbalance to our sun, and a gas giant wouldn't really do that?
They measured its pull, Pastor Paul, and the pull of Jupiter does not match what they put in the textbooks. It does not match celestial mechanics as it is entered on many different computer systems. It just does not match. The real data is different than what's being calculated down here on the Earth. They have things so nice and neat here on the Earth, like mankind, they're just masters of knowing things they can't even actually get to. And then when they have probes repeatedly going past Jupiter, the gravitational pull constants are off. They're all off. They don't work, right? So they have to end up doing these manual burns, and that sends certain craft, they burn up more than they thought they would burn up. 2 of the crafts are sent out compensating for extra burn, because they understand that there's no way Jupiter can be a gas giant, but they're not going to change the textbooks. They don't want to ruin confidence is what it is.
Right.
But we're going to see Jupiter start to shift. We're going to see it shift. That will be preceded by about 3 red storms. That big eye on Jupiter, that storm.
Yeah.
We'll see 3. They'll talk about 3 storms, 3 specific storms, 3 eyes. It'll be in the news and everywhere. When you guys see this, you know that Jupiter's orbit's about to change. And they'll likely say, ooh, that's just awesome, right? It has 3 big major storms on there. That will be the beginning of the alterations. Now, some of the mathematics, some of the ideology behind that, the data behind that is sort of complex. But just watch for 3 major storms on Jupiter. If not, they'll probably be the same size as that big red spot that continues to change.
Do you see that happening in 2023, Mike?
I hope not, but it probably. We'll have an example, a small example of what I mean in 2023.
Okay.
We're going to have a small example. All I can say is, I would rather it didn't, but that's not up to me. I just know that when it does, its orbit's going to shift, and that gives a good indication of what is inbound travel. One of the aggravating, and I know some of the things I say totally against textbooks, right?
Right.
totally against what everybody had. But here's the issue, though. Man is naturally prideful behind academia, right? My other problem is not only that, but when you have good Christian researchers, they need the real data. They don't need this fictitious stuff, because if they start basing everything off of some theorized data, they're going to have a theorized answer. And so there are people pressing to get Christian folks the real data. The absolute real data, the real constants, so that what they calculate can be much more precise. Because I'll tell you, Pastor, we're in a time where everybody is needed. Every skill set is needed. It's just needed. It's time. It really is time. And we don't have much of that. I fear that now, 2 years ago, I said, if Christians don't stand up spiritually, the government's things are going to start crumbling. Yeah. Well, we see it about 8 years ago, but there we are. But guess what? If we don't come together and put our heads together on some of these anticipated things we're going to go through, it's going to leave too many people in the blind, right? Because we know that with a lack of faith, it's got to be very convincing. To a lot of people, it requires a lot of data for a worldly person to actually start to even consider what you're saying. We will have examples, though. And if somebody can put out data that precedes these examples, then they'll hear them. They don't care how it's going to sound right now, but when these foreshadowings pop up, they're going to say, hey, who's that guy that said this was right? They were right on the money. Where is he at? Right? That's needed. That's needed right now in the body of Christ. It is needed.
You see, as things are coming to pass here, and this is so important, Mike, they know when can I ask you, when over in Davos right now, they show us part of what they talk about, but are they talking about what you're talking about tonight? Is there rooms in there where guys and scientists are getting together and they're saying, let us show you the projection of this thing and what's coming up on the earth? Is that type of discussion going on?
They have virtual. They're not only are they on a stage, but they're also in the meta world, right? So that means they're in that three-dimensional world, virtual world, and they present all sorts of data privately without having to disclose that to anybody else.
Right.
So you have a lot of folks involved in Davos who are CEOs and presidents and things of that nature, who are in the metaverse. And what they're doing in the metaverse is going into these private places built in the metaverse so they can show presentations, even take people out in the middle of a simulation to explain to them what they're looking at, right?
Wow.
That's not the only thing. The military is also involved in the metaverse, right? Because they have briefings and things like that. And that's not the only thing. There are people who have jobs in the metaverse. They have to show up every single day. Just to give an example of this so people don't think it's strange, like, how does he know about Davos? Well, just like this, give it 2 days and watch crypto. Anyway, next subject. They have these presentations in the metaverse, and people have seats in them watching some very intricate things happen, right? They can absolutely control who watches what. As soon as you step into the metaverse, they know who you are, where you are, all this good stuff, right? Your telemetry is transmitted, so it's pretty secure. They know exactly where you are. A lot of things are being shown because they're moving forward. A lot of people will begin to see the world start doing things by force. Everything is going to be by force. They're done asking. They're not going to ask anymore. They're going to do it by force. I can't emphasize that enough. They're going to do everything they have to do by force.
So the urgency of these 7 years, there's 7 years before we get to the 2030 completion. They're turning up the heat. I mean, I take it that they're going to be turning up the procedures, the policy changes, the global mandates of different things, the food distribution, water distribution, defense mechanisms. I mean, do you see by force, meaning whether the populace like it or not, they're going to mandate and change things from an international perspective to the whole world?
Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
What will be their excuse? What excuse will they use to have to do what they're doing?
Well, that's going to be the climate, right?
Yeah.
It's also going to be the food. Climate affects food,
Yeah.
right? So here's what normally happens. If you had an argument about the climate and somebody said, well, we got to do something right now. To do something right now means you got to start making everybody cut back on what they consume.
Yeah.
If they stop consuming so much resources and that ability to revitalize or reintroduce the waste back into the environment, all that goes down, right? Here's the bad part. Everybody should know this. After multiple simulations, do you not know it would take over 1,000 years to get the carbon footprint back to our pre-industrial state? If we stopped everything right now, more than 1,000 years, that doesn't work. And if they did, it could cool the planet somehow, Pascal. It would take 125 years to get the ice, right? To get the ice to not melt as much as it is now by about, I think it's like 10 or 15%. So it will still melt. If we stopped everything right now, the climate will still increase for the next 230 years. The sea levels would continue to rise for the next 300 years. If we just stopped everything right now, we're still on track for a very different world. Now they know this. I'm saying this because they know a different world is coming. They know that all of America is not going to be inhabitable. They know that all of Europe is not going to be inhabitable. They know this. And what they have done was they ran the simulations. Why do you think the census was so important?
Yeah.
The census was important because they had to have an accurate count of where everybody was and what they were doing and all this good stuff. So that was important for the simulations. They have a master simulation they have run. They know who's going to be able to have housing and who will not. Now, how do you get rid of folks who are not going to have the housing in the new landscape that we're going to have, with parts of the earth covered by water and other parts of the earth missing through tectonic shifts and things like that? How do you do that? You have to have some sort of forced problem to start getting rid of people. And I hate to say this, but war is a grinder. In other words, every time a war comes around, right, we start to recycle people.
Yeah.
That's what we do. We recycle people. They don't like that conversation around wartime. People do profit, yes. But most importantly, you have a lot of people who are taken off the books. They're no longer on that census. Why do they do this? So that the rich keep in power. This is very difficult to say, and I know a lot of people may not get this. It's not about those in charge having money, because they made the money, right? They designed the money. They put the money out to everybody else. They own that money. So that's not the factor. The factor is control of the populace. Control means not having prisoners, right?
Yeah.
But to somehow psychologically dupe the populace into praising them, into looking to them. When the people start saying, hey, we need a new this guy, we need a new this guy.
They're doing it.
That's them praising the people. That means they're not willing to do it themselves. They don't believe in themselves to do it. Isn't that funny? You have billions of people on the earth. They don't like governmental figures, but they won't do anything about it. Because everybody has in their own mind, well, I don't make a difference. Well, you get everybody thinking that, and they will not do anything.
Right.
It won't do a thing. Somehow that will start changing, but not before these guys push a kingdom in front of everybody. So all of what people have been used to look for to fail. There's going to be a failure of democracy like nobody has ever seen before. There are going to be upsets. People think, well, if this country went to war and that country went to war, clearly this would be the winner. They're going to reverse it in front of everybody's faces. When everybody is defeated that way, they're easily molded, lifted back up into a new system. The young kids are not going to be bothered. They don't care. That's why all these new bills have passed and everything else. They're already in the metaverse. They don't care about morality like we do. So they're used to it. And the one thing we're going to have to realize is that even by the census, the older people who are above the age of 45 or I'll say 55, there's not too many of us left.
No.
There's just not too many of us left. We do not constitute the major part of the populace. We just don't. And so what they're doing is all these young people who are easily
persuaded
by these weird things, they're going to utilize them.
Yeah.
They're going to utilize. And speaking of these young kids, Pascal, maybe your audience knows, I bet you they do. Why is it that these young children, I've never seen this before. I know why, and I won't say why, but these young children, they have no idea. I'll give you one scenario. It's a chuckle. When a light bulb goes out in the refrigerator, right? You or I would never say, well, let's throw out the refrigerator. It does not work.
No.
These younger kids, they have no clue that a light bulb out in the refrigerator, right, just means the light bulb is out. They think the whole thing broke down.
They don't understand how.
In other words, they're disconnected from common things.
Yeah, they don't know how
possible, because we're talking about genetic memory. The genetic memory in these young kids has been wiped out. They don't know about clean water going into a washing machine. They think it's filthy or something like that. They don't know. There are certain things they do that they're not connected with it. Some of these kids don't even know the concept of a microwave, right? They have, and the worst part about this is some of these young kids, for the first time in my lifetime, they do not know who Christ is.
No, they don't.
How is that possible unless something else has been taking place under our noses? Yeah, it's a different topic, yes, but that really foretells of an origin. That's an origin story, or a very real one.
It's really sad. It's the truth what you're telling us. They don't understand how things work or how things are made or what it takes, the materials, and where do the materials come from, the assembly, how does it work? They just think it's supposed to always be there. And then when you say they don't know who Christ is, they never heard of him in a lot of cases. And whatever they have heard about him has totally been distorted. So there's this a big time disconnect between generations. And the sad part about this is that's what's going to help. Unfortunately, that's ushering in the coming of Jesus Christ. Because even Jesus said this, Mike. He said, when I come, will I find any faith left? And it's kind of a question. Certainly there will be, because, you know, those that are redeemed will be caught up for him, to be with him. The dead in Christ are going to rise and will be changed. But he asked that question because it's going to be scarce. It's going to get very, very difficult. And it doesn't take long, does it, Mike? It doesn't take long. 10, 20 years from now, it's a massive change in what type of faith people who believe in the Lord will be left on the earth. I mean, huge.
Yeah.
So
when you have, especially when you have children born who have no identification with Christ, no one had to tell me who Christ was.
Right.
There are so many people out there, nobody had to tell them there was a God in this head. But some of these kids, not all, some of these kids absolutely do not know what that name is. They're not familiar with the name.
No.
Which lets me know something. If a child is not familiar with the name of Christ, that child's origins are different. That sounds strange, but there's some who are just not like everybody else, right? They're not meant to be that way, but they were always meant to come at the end times because they lift up ideologies like some of these new policies that have passed. They're 100% behind them. They're advocates for immorality. And it really is going topsy-turvy.
wow.
It really is.
Well, Mike, this has been a very fascinating discussion, and boy, I didn't know if we was even going to be able to get it in. I'm so glad that we were able to get this broadcast restarted and get over 8,000 people to find it and still get it and get the gospel out to people. I think what you did today, though, you revealed something. You know, the wormwood revealed. It's now in play. It can see it coming. We know the anticipation of it is soon. And so that puts a lot of things in play. A lot of agendas are going on right now in preparation for this coming apocalypse, really. And people better find Christ and get him in their heart and listen to what the Lord says and read the word and be prepared. Because
that's that true preparation. Amen. Prepared in Christ.
People better be ready.
A few days, we're going to find out, won't we?
We will. And I'm telling you, I'm a little nervous about this whole Russia situation and Europe and NATO and all of it. But there's so many things that are happening simultaneously that people better realize that the Bible prophecies are happening right before our very eyes. And it's coming quick now. All right, Mike. Well, thank you for being with us tonight. It's been a pleasure and an honor to have you on. It's been great information you've shared with us tonight.
Well, God bless you too, Pastor Paul. Guys, don't worry about the earthquake and the 2 flares that are coming. Don't worry about that.
Don't worry about it. All right.
It won't do too much.
I appreciate that. Now I'm worried about it. All right. Okay. All right, Mike. Thank you so much, my brother.
God bless you, Pastor Paul. See you next time.
Okay. Mike from the world, folks. Don't worry about the earthquake and the 2 flares that are coming. Just don't worry about it. I didn't know they were coming. Okay, so we'll keep an eye on that, all right? But truly, we're in the last days, guys, and I'm going to play a song. Hopefully it'll sound okay. Apologizing that we lost this program and had to restart it. That was the weirdest thing I ever seen. I think it was a total attack on our broadcast coming out of StreamYard there, and it doesn't shock me. But I know one thing. Jesus is coming soon. And you gotta make things right with God. So if you want to be saved tonight, I will pray with every person that wants to be saved tonight. Just type